Dr. Alisa Hasamo. Hello สวัสดีค่ะ Dr. Alisa Hasamo from Prince Songkha University in Pattani, and she will look at the situations of the Thai people who come back from Malaysia. And third is Kun Nitit. Kun Nitit is from the ARCM, the ASEAN Research Center for Migration. Kun Nitit will look at the migrant worker, especially on the fishery sector and the impact of the COVID-19. And the last speaker is Kun Sirpskun. I think, may I see your face, Kun Sirpskun. I think Sirpskun already, yeah. Here. Talk Sirpskun, can you show at least your voice, if not your face? I think. But anyway, Kun Sirpskun will talking about the Chan migrant worker, which is facing the situation of the COVID-19 along the Myanmar border, especially in Mae Sai and Chiang Rai. So maybe without further ado, may I ask Kun Akhanat to start the session. He will be the first one with the first Akhanat to speak on the issue of the COVID-19 and its impact to the people.
ขอบคุณครับ Good morning everyone and thank you for having me here to present what I have been doing during this COVID-19 lockdown. So I'm going to present my project that I got funded by the Thai Health Promotion Foundation and also CU callers. The project was, okay, I guess everyone see my presentation here. It is called Tam Sang Tam Song in Thai, and Tam Sang is like, you know, it can translate it into two meaning. One meaning was we refer to the on-demand cooking, you know, and another one, Tam Sang, can be like you order and then, you know, we do, like we Tam Song. Tam Song is literally mean we will deliver. So basically Tam Song is mean you order and we will deliver. Okay. And this project, the real name of the project was called Tam Sang Tam Song, social distancing promotion and job security for the motorcycle, taxi and food vendors during the COVID-19 crisis. So the basic background of this project was come from my research on platform economy. I did a research funded by the FES a few years ago on how the platform economy has impacted the Thai labor market. I did research with Dr. Kriengsak Thirakovit-Kajon, and at the last part of the project, we have kind of the proposal to the authorities that how to taking care how to deal with new emerged economy. And I always curious whether, you know, my policy recommendation is really work or not. We never know until someone take it and make it, you know, so that we would know whether our policy recommendations work or not. So when it comes to the situation during the COVID lockdown, then we know that the Thai Health Promotion Foundation, they kind of call for proposal for a small grant. So I think this is a good chance for me to kind of at least test those policy recommendation whether it's really work or not. So that's how the idea of the project coming up. And when we talk about the platform economy, probably you're not really familiar with this term, but if I say few names like Airbnb or Uber, you get to understand what it is, and you see that since the smartphone technology and telecommunication, the 4G and 5G is coming, then you see that everything we can do it on our smartphone, and lots of application that come out with the concept of the platform economy. Basically, platform economy, they will have like three components: the supply side, the demand side, and the platform provider. So from our research, we found that ideally these three stakeholders should have equal negotiation power, but in fact, most of the case was that the platform provider has more power than the supply and the demand side. Even the supply and the demand side was the one who create revenue for them, but they have more power to control and to do everything by themselves. So when it comes to the food delivery platform, it's quite same model of the normal platform, but another stakeholders coming out was that the delivery man. So from here on, the food delivery platform, you have the food vendor and the delivery man as a supply side, and the customer will be the demand side. And the platform play an important role to matching the demands of the demand side and the supply side. During the COVID-19, it was a controversial because we were locked down in Thailand. Customer cannot eat at the restaurant, so the demand for the food delivery was rising. And actually, there is a research from EDA that, because of this COVID, the demand for the food delivery has increased 34%. That's only in a short period of time. So, and actually not only Thailand, this phenomena is worldwide. And you will see that the giant company, the big high-tech company, platform owner, they see this as an opportunity. We saw it as a crisis, but they saw it as an opportunity. So what they did was that they tried to increase the share that they will, the commission that they will get from the food vendor. They already get big, but they want more. So some of the platform go up to 35%. This is what the situation was in the 31st of March this year at the middle of the lockdown. You will see that some platform was demand the food vendor to pay the portion very high. So what happened when they get like 35%? The food vendor saw it as the cost that they will have to pay. So they will increase the price of the food. For example, if you used to buy like 30 baht, then you have to buy 40 baht at least. So at the end, the consumer got affected. So some certain countries, for example, from New Zealand, the Prime Minister, came out on the public and said that, well, we don't use Uber Eats because Uber Eats take 35% from the restaurant. And some states like San Francisco, under the state of emergency, they demand the food delivery platform maximum commission at 15%. But in Thailand, we have no mechanism like that. The authority do nothing. So the public, after this news came out that one platform would like to increase from 30% to 35%, then the consumers start to make noise, and finally they drop that policy. So they stop at 30%, which is still very high. So this is come to the idea that how can we use this a small project to help at least three stakeholders. One was the food vendor, because their selling was dropped, and the consumer will have to pay more if they buy from the delivery platform. And the motorcycle taxi, they lost a chance to get their normal income because of the situation. No one would like to move because they have to work at home. So we came out with the idea that, well, we'll help the motorcycle taxi strike back, and we would have to disrupting those disruptors. So we got a fund, a very small fund, like 100,000 baht, 100,000 baht from Thai Health Promotion Foundation. We have a big dream, but we have a very small budget. So I asked help from Chulalongkorn University, which find enough to give us another 100,000. So that's enough for us to do our activities. So the basic concept was that how we could, reduce. If you remember the components of the platform providers driven by a business, right? So how can we reduce the platform from a business to just a tool at matching those who already have their own business? For example, the food vendor, they already have their own business. Motorcycle taxi, they already have their own business. So we don't need another people to matching them and get some money from them and the consumer. So why don't we just create something that can help them matching themselves without paying that high commission? So it comes out to the concept of the so-called social solidarity economy. We just would like to show them how to make a good platform, how to make a good business that concern about the society rather than money. So we started at Soi Lat Phao 101, which is a very big community. And when we start the project, then we will have to do the survey. It's a very big and huge area. So we got help from the faculty of the architecture, sent the PhD student to help us. We divide a very huge area of Lat Phao 101 into 20 zones, and we sent team, 4 teams and 3 members each teams to walk down on the street and search for all the food vendors. Since we claim that this is going to be a platform for opportunity, then we cannot cut anyone out from our platform. So if they are small, they are big, but they are willing to join us, then we will accept them all. So finally, we found out that the whole area, we have like more than 200 food vendors. This is the on the left hand side. You will see this is the how we spot all the food vendors, all kind of food vendors, from a very small food stall, a restaurant, and even the typing cart, and we include them all into our platform. And we also working hard with the motorcycle taxi, because they will be the major part to deliver the food for us. So we don't want be an outsider to tell them what to do, but we would like to learn from them. We invited them to be a part of the workforce, and they help us to design everything. We have to get consensus from them. See? And finally, we came out with the platform tamsang-tamsong.com, which is the web application. So if you would like to check it out, you can go to our website, and it's mobile friendly. So from the mobile phone, it looks very like a mobile app, but actually it's not a mobile app. It's a web application that can run on the mobile phone as well. So basically, we have 2 services. One was to order food and get the motorcycle taxi, in motorcycle, to deliver food from food vendor to the customers. And another service was that to if you would like to go somewhere, then you can call motorcycle taxi to come and pick you up from your home by using another platform, the line, to share the location so that the motorcycle taxi can come and take you. So this is what we have done. We use almost every channel that we can use, the web application that we use, actually we are not the tech person. We use like instant platform, and we try hard to adopt and adapt it to work as we like, as much as we can. And we also use the Line official account for the Samsung features. So at the end, we got very good attention from the society, and we try to make a standard for the motorcycle taxi. We make them to be seen when we would like to send some of the motorcycle taxi to deliver the food. Then we send this information sheet that contain the motorcycle taxi's driver pictures and um, telephone number, so that consumer can assure that this guy can track and trace, and we know where they are. So this is what we did, and we try to make it more standard. We give them the insulation bag. We give them the uh, alcohol gel, so that they can you know make sure that the customer will get very clean and safe from the COVID-19. Not only that, we think of the sustainability, and the thing was the ownership, who is going to taking care of this project, since it's not a business base. So at the end, when people don't really get money from it, they probably don't want to run it. If they think, well, this is not worth to run, then we try hard to make it to be the something that community will have to do it. So we try to invite the high school in the area and participate in the project. We have online Zoom class to teach students on what is different between business um, and SE, and what is the solidarity economy, and how to um, develop a product, how to do a business, how to do the branding, how to do the marketing communication. So we got students that help us in this project as well. And we think that, well, in the future, students in the school, and school is in the community. So this can be another element that would sustain this platform in the future. So this is how we work. We we and the students, working in the field together, talking to the motorcycle taxi and the food vendor what they need, and then we teach, we train the students to help us to create a content on our social media platforms. And at the end, we get lots of intention media reports. As the clipping is more than 20 media, newspaper and television and everything. And I got lots of calls almost every day from different locations that they would like to use this concept, this model to adopt into the area. So now the Thai Health Promotion Foundation thinking of how to develop this, how to make it more robust, and how to use this model to other parts, including, some other part like the deep south of Thailand. We have friends that really interested in this idea, and think this would help to create job security for people down there. So basically now we are on the process to talk with the Thai Health Promotion Foundation that how can we develop this project more, because according to the document, the project was already end, but now we're still working on the project. So last but not least, I would like to thank all my crews. Actually, we have lots of people that involved in this project. Students from many universities, high school students, those my team was people who couldn't go back to the US or Taiwan to pursue their PhD studies because the lockdown situation, and we believe that we can make things better. We believe that we can show those big corporate to see what really is the good startup. So I would end it there. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Kun Akhanat, and you will see that this is quite a good kick-off for our session because we look at the situation of the COVID-19 and also what kind of impact that's the impact to the motorcycle taxi and to the people, and how we make it when we use the word people, planet, and inclusive society. So the second speaker will be Dr. Alisa Hasamo from Prince Songkhla University, and the situation is also, I mean, at the between the case for the Thai and the Malay. Yes. Okay, Dr. Alisa, please. You have 15 minutes each. Your microphone. The microphone is mute.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. ค่ะขอบคุณค่ะพี่จูค่ะ
Yes.
My topic is civil society in Thailand, Deep South and the weak state, and the topic is in the world we face with the COVID-19 crisis, and it depends on the people to see this situation is a crisis or a window of opportunity. For me, it can be both in the southern part of Thailand because 15 years ago, we start have a conflict situation since 4 January 2004. And during on the way, we try to make a peace with the insurgency group BRN coordinate in the southern part of Thailand and the Thai state. And many times the table of peace talk is failing, but is during the COVID situation in the southern part of Thailand, on April 3rd, Pattani Malay National Revolutionary Front or BRN announced ceasefire because the BRN want to give an opportunity for the Thai government and also their medical team to taking care of the people who might have a chance or impact from the COVID-19 without any worry about the violent conflict situation in the southern part. However, in a few days later, they have the assassination, the military attack the BRN members, and they killed 3 of them. So, and this is in the southern part of Thailand, it is can be more like the conflict situation, and also we have to face with another type of disaster like a COVID-19 disaster as a pandemic disaster. So I think that the situation in the southern part of Thailand is more complex and complicated because we have a lot of factors. For example, like we have a conflict situation, and we also face with the COVID-19. And the most people who affected by the COVID-19 situation is the Thai worker who work in Malaysia. And from the statistic from the Ministry of Labor, we have the Thai worker, legal and illegal, work in Malaysia, 200,000 people. And for the worker who work like legally, they work at the service sector, construction and farmer. Because in Thailand we have mostly they are farmer and they do a rubber plantation, and they are fishermen. So once when they didn't have a job here, and they can go to Malaysia to work with them. And because we have also like the border near Malaysia, we do not need to cross the border like legally, but we can like use the natural path to go to work in Malaysia very easily. For from the statistic, we found like the illegal worker more than the number is more than like 195,000 workers. So during the conflict, during the COVID-19, when the Thailand shut down, they closed the border, and the Malaysia also we call mobile control. So they quite strict the people to travel to go anywhere because the COVID situation, and also the Thai worker who work in Malaysia, they work in Tom Yam Kung restaurant, and during the COVID situation, more than 6,000 restaurant has been closed because the COVID situation. And this is also affect to the Thai worker, Thai people who work in Malaysia, and it's quite very interesting because the Thai worker, they send money back home like 70 million baht a year. This is only the true formal transaction to the Bangkok Bank. So during the COVID situation, like this is the statistic from the Isla News. They kept collect the number of people who come back from the Malaysia and have to go back to Thailand. In the border, we have at least 5 border from Sungai Kolop, Narathiwat, Depong, Yala, Padang Besar, Sedao, Bang Prajan, Tamanan. So, but we found that the legal worker, they across the border approximately 2,000, and illegal worker more than 1,000 people. This is another statistic from the Christian Medical Association in the deep south of Thailand. They collect the information since 18 April to 14 November 2020. They found that more than like nearly 1,000 cases they across the border and come back to Thailand. Mostly you can see this from the statistic 3,000 provinces they come across back, and outside and we also have people from outside southern province of Thailand either, and also from the 3 southern province of Thailand. And this is a statistic that the gender worker, nearly 46% they are female, and 54% they are male. So you can see that they have quite close the number between male and female who working in Malaysia. What the problem when the Thailand announced they closed the border? So this is a picture on for April 2020. Tom Yam Kung, we call like the people in Thailand who work in Malaysia, mostly they work at the Tom Yam Kung restaurant, so we call them the Tom Yam Kung worker. They when the Thailand immediate announced that all the border has to be shut down. So this is the 120 worker who came with the 3 buses. They pay the money and they rent the buses from the KL to go back to their hometown. But during on the way they come back, the Thailand government announced already that the border has to be closed, so they have to stay overnight at the border, and because they have to stay overnight at the border, and because they are a worker, they didn't have much income to come back to the country, and the border did not allow them, even though they already have the medical certificate. They already contact with the Thai embassy in Malaysia, but they still cannot come back. So this is a starting point that more than like 10,000 workers found difficulty to across the border to come back to Thailand, and even the and the problem, another problem is the Thai government did not do much collaborate with the Malaysia government, and we also announced that we need a lot of medical. We need a lot of documents, for example, like medical certificates that they have to went to the clinic and ask for the medical certificates, which the medical doctor in the Malaysia they did not understand. And once when the border has been shut down and they strictly like the people has the strict number of the people who can across the border only 300 people per day. So and only a people who has been registered through the internet online and can allow to come back to Thailand, and they have to have like their medical certificate, fit to fly medical certificate, which they have to went to the clinic and to ask this certificate. And not every medical doctor in Malaysia, they understand that what is the fit to fly is, because they never had this before. So, and moreover, the Thailand worker who work in Malaysia, not everyone can read and write. Not everyone can read and write the capable to like literacy. So many of them cannot read and write, and not everyone can access to the internet. And once when the people use a lot of internet to register themselves to come back to the country, the internet also gone down too. And I don't know if anyone has an experience to go to Malaysia, Thai-Malay border. It's not easy. It's not easy to find the clinic or the hospital there. So people had to get a taxi or Grab to get the medical certificate. And also, and because of the Malaysia at that moment, very strictly, only one people can take a taxi and go to go to anywhere. So it's quite, so during this period it's quite very difficult for Thai worker who try to go back to the country, and they got to lost the job because all the restaurant has to been closed, and they found difficulties to come back to the country. Only one choice that they have is they got to come back by the natural path, which is that for Thai society that is very illegal. But for me, but who live in the southern part of Thailand, that is quite very normal, because we can go by boat. I can go to Malaysia, not necessarily to have the even passport or even my own ID. It's quite very easy to cross that way. But however, during the COVID situation, natural path had been closed, and the military also quite suspect with nearly everyone who crossed the border with the natural path, because they because we live in the conflict situation, and they suspect that the insurgency or PRN member will use this opportunity to come back to country. This is so that's why many people who came to this way and didn't have like their medical certificate or their letter from the Thai embassy, they have to be arrested, and they have to be fined with like 800 baht. This is another example, like 5 women ride motorcycle across the border on the 8th November 2020 from Songkhla border. Not only that, because we live in the conflict situation, when they cross the border already. They has like the Thai officer also collect their DNA sample from them too. At first they thought this is like a COVID testing, that they have the COVID or not, but actually they suspect nearly everyone who across the border. They do uh, uh, DNA. They do DNA collecting, and not only the people who cross the border like a worker, they do without any like consent form or anything, but everyone who are arrested that has to do this process. And from the Thai from the Thai military, they believe that even that we have like a pandemic disaster, but they believe that state has to use that law with every criminal, and they believe that the Thai worker who across the border, they already has the assumption that everyone might has a chance to be an insurgency group. Once when they come back, speaking about the Thai worker who come back to their country, they also faced with the natural resources declaration. Like for Pattani Bay, we also faced with the like the impact from the problem about the dragging of the bay in front and around the Gulf Pattani effect. This is also affect the people who just come back to their hometown. And from my study, I found like more than 5,000 people who came back from Malaysia and come back to stay in their village. But first, they didn't have any job, and the second, they didn't have they also effect from the natural resources that has been changed. And the last point is recently we just have the industrial zone in Jana. But the people in the southern part of Thailand also affected from the situation either. Like we had been threatening us, and the Thai government also like came back to threatening that a lot of the local villagers like do not go to do protests or to gathering, or even they asking they are a core member of this group or not. And this is a picture that the police also visit the core leader in the Jana, and also visit some lecturer in the Prince of Songkhla University. That they has been suspect because they want to establish the Jana industrial. And for the last one that we not only the COVID situation that we have been faced, but we also had impact with the IO or information operation. This is the website that established by the government and try to discredit with the other opposite group that thinking not the same with the government do. So ideally, the role of the government should provide the happiness and the well-being for their citizens, and they have to create rules to protect the citizens from the conflict and provide law and order. But however, like in the southern part of Thailand, the violence happened between government and the citizen, and the government like also being a part of the conflict itself. So this is quite difficult for us to dealing with not only the conflict situation, but also the once when faced with the COVID-19 situation is quite very difficult for us either. So this is a part of the weak state that the government failed to handle even internal conflict, and incapable to distribute the political goods to their citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alisa. It's also, as our second speaker, is very interesting because your situation in dealing with COVID-19 is not only on the issue of the COVID-19, but it's also related to the people especially in the conflict zone. And if Kun Akhanat is on inclusive society, Dr. Alisa is very exclusive situation in the Thai society. Now we're going to the third speaker, Kun Nitit Thamasang Atipa, on the COVID-19 and impact to the migrant worker in the fishery sector, and also the fisher folk also who face the situation in the COVID-19. Okay, Nitit, please.
Thank you, Ajahn. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I will share my screen right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Does everyone see my screen?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being interested in our panel discussion. First of all, I would like to quickly introduce myself. My name is Nitit Thamasang Adipa. I am working for the Asian Research Center for Migration, the Institute of Asian Studies, Chulalongkorn University. Today, I would like to take this opportunity to share with you about our research projects relating to the consequences of the COVID-19 situation. My topic today is about rethinking the future of Thai fisheries, COVID-19 and vulnerable groups in Thai fisheries sector. My presentation will be consisted into 4 parts. For the first part, I will share you my rationalization on who are considered vulnerable in fisheries sector. And for the next part, I will introduce you our research projects I have been involving relating to the impacts of COVID-19 to vulnerable groups of people in Thai fisheries sector. And for the third part, I will share the initial findings of those projects since the projects are on the run right now. And for the last part, I will discuss on why rethinking is needed for the future of Thai fisheries. So let's move on. In Thai fisheries who are considered vulnerable, since fish and fish products are one of the most traded food products in the world, with 38% of fish and fish products in global trade. So fisheries are important to the livelihoods of many fishery-dependent communities, especially for Thailand. The country has immensely commercialized fisheries since 1960s and become one of the top seafood exporters for decades. The focus on commercializing fisheries into the global market has weakened small-scale fishers' ability to make their livings, as well as has made them lack of sufficient support. And since the sector has heavily relied on migrant workers from neighboring countries, another fishery story is about employment situations in the sector. Moving back to 2010s, Thailand had been watched on situations of labor exploitations in seafood industries. Even as of now, the situations have been tremendously improved, but we still have rooms to improve, as it was still stated in the 2020 Trafficking in Persons report that migrants working in fisheries are still in vulnerable situations. And since the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the vulnerabilities, recently our research institute have 2 projects aiming to study the situations of these vulnerable groups in fisheries sectors. The first project is called Inclusive Policy Studies for Vulnerable Groups. And the second one is the impact of COVID-19 to the migrant workers in Thailand. For the first one, the project on inclusive policy studies for vulnerable groups, The project was supported by the Thai Health Promotion Foundation, aiming to study and analyze government policies, laws, regulations, and socio-economic conditions leading small-scale fishers excluded or hindered access to markets, services, and social spaces. And for this project, our research team embraced the social inclusion as a conceptual framework of the study. And actually, these projects, the small-scale rice farmers are still studied, but that's out of context in this presentation. The second project is called The Impact of COVID-19 to the Migrant Workers in supported by but today I will speak only for the migrant workers in fisheries. We are using the multiple deprivation as a conceptual framework of the study. So moving on to the initial findings of the researchers. Since both researchers are still on the run, uh, the findings I will present now is just initial and from my observation alone, and not from the research team. In the face of the crisis, fisheries sector has been impacted quite early during the spreading of the COVID-19 pandemic from the restrictions of the closures of seafood supply chains in the both global and domestic levels. These lead to the negative impacts on both groups. For small-scale fishers, they have faced the issue from the lockdown. The restaurants were closed, the transportation was shut down, and the middleman did not buy fish products anymore. And since the fisheries communities have heavily relied on the middlemen so much, and fishers cannot access to the market by themselves, and the impacts for the migrant workers in fisheries, especially those who are from Cambodia, their migration cycle was disrupted by the protectionistic lockdown policy. Uh, Normally, migration cycle was that they will go back to their country after the end of the account cycle, after they have got their payment, and and before Songkran festival. And for this year, after they have get paid and gone back to the Cambodia in late March, the borders were closed not long after that, and they can't be back to Thailand. But the fisheries sector in Thailand is still running during the lockdown, and the employers still demand for the labor force. Uh, the employers organization have stated that they need more 50,000 laborers to be hired. And however, the procedure of getting back to Thailand is still shut, and according to our key informants, who are CSO working with migrant workers, they stated that migrants have crossed the borders through natural border channels and becomes illegal workers in Thailand and continue to be vulnerable. Uh, But to me, I think there are also positive sides of the situation. And for migrant workers in fisheries, they still have paid job since the government allows fisheries to be operated in Thailand. And for small scale fishers, they were allowed to register to get the compensation from the government, and it it is the first time that they were recognized as a fisher by the government. For this is the first time. Moving on to the final part of my presentation, actually, I still have no constructive recommendations from the studies, since the studies are in the process of data processing. But from my observation, COVID situation has shown us that heavily relying on cheap labors for commercial fisheries to do the job is not good to both employers and employees, and heavily relying on the philanthropic middlemen in the fisheries community is not sustainable for small-scale fishers. Relying on them hinder the fishers to access to the markets. I think for commercial fisheries, we need to introduce or develop new technology to do fisheries, and I think introducing new technology may uprise the business to be more decent as well. And for the small scale fishers, I think we have to expand new channels to help them to access to the markets, like online platform. Since I have seen many groups of fishers have started using it, and and this is pretty much it from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Khun Nitit. So, I mean, we can see that we move from a Bangkok motorcycle taxi who faced the COVID with the new platform. We're going to far south of Thailand to see the Thai people living in the conflict zone come back from Malaysia, and then we're going to along the sea, especially the Andaman Sea, and see how the people in the fishery sector, both Thai and migrant, face the situation and how they try to, mitigate the situation. The last speaker is we go up to the northern part of Thailand, in between Thailand and Myanmar, in Chiang Rai. Kun Kitikorn, Kun Sirpsakul Kitnukorn. I always start with the family name. Kun Sirpsakul Kitnukorn he will also talking about the situation of the impact to the COVID-19. Kun Tok Kitikorn, please. Yes. Okay. Here. Now, our last speaker, Sirpsakul Kitnukorn, on the impact of the situation of the COVID-19 and its impact to the people. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Just wait.
Yeah. Can you share the screen? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Can you see me?
Yes.
The PowerPoint?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
also on the screen, right?
Yes. Yes. That's correct. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. You can put the full screen.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Ajahn Chu. I'm very glad to participate to this morning panel discussion. I would like to share my own experiences as an activist scholar during COVID-19. I did not conduct any research like Khun Akhanat in Bangkok. Okay, actually, I am interested in both border studies and migration studies. So therefore, my presentation today is based on both disciplines. Okay, yeah, I think this is my argument. During COVID-19 pandemic in Thailand, raised a number of concerns among NGOs, activists, and scholars about the economic suffering of migrant workers and question the government that stigmatize migrant workers as a group of disease spreader. Migrant workers are viewed as the victim of inequality and discrimination. Instead, I would like to put another way to explain. I think we should focusing on the risk of life and emerging of the social movement of migrant workers in Chiang Rai borderland. This will be a very good example. That means on one hand, migrant workers face three kinds of risks. That means risk in work, risk in the health, and risk in cross-border practice. But on the other hand, they are very active in participating in the working with NGOs and academic in aid providing network and access to right of health and right of worker. So this is I will explain more about my argument. This is my outline of presentation. I have 4 topics. First, I will talk about the interrelation between the borderland, migration, and COVID-19. And the second part, I will talk about the 3 risks of life in migrant worker. And then I will talk about the emerging of social movement, and the final part of my presentation is the conclusion. Okay. You see that Chiang Rai's borderland map under the economic integration. Chiang Rai shares the border with 2 countries, with Myanmar and Laos, right? Chiang Rai is a part of a north-south economic corridor, and the function of the border is open for the flow of the economic integration. Chiang Rai borderland is the destination for migrant workers from Myanmar and Laos who cross the border to earn money, to seek for their job, and is also as a transit point to the inner city of Thailand, for example, to Lampang, Phayao, Chiang Mai, or even Bangkok or the southern part of Thailand. But during the COVID-19 outbreak, the border function of the border is back to the barrier to stop the mobility, especially the people again under the COVID-19, right? Under the economic integration is change the function to open to be the bridge, but under the COVID, it changed back to the traditional function is to the barrier, right? These are all borders in Chiang Rai are closed. From March 23rd, the government ordered to close all border. That means 6 international checkpoints are closed from Mae Sai bridge to Chiang Khong, Thai-Lao Friendship Bridge number 4, and also 10 checkpoints for border trade are closed too. But most people understand that the border are on the map or in their imagination, right? There's this border line that exclude the other, but include ours in the territories. But in the reality, right, in the Mesot or Sungai Kolok or around the borderline of Thailand, especially in Chiang Rai, this is a Mae Sai river that is separate the Mae Sai and Pachilek of Myanmar. The river can easily walk across the border, right? And the practice of crossing the border without permission is one of border culture here. Let me turn back to the migration. The number of migrant workers in Chiang Rai. There are 3 groups of migrants in Chiang Rai. First is a documented migrant worker. It's about 28 people who are registered as workers in Chiang Rai. And the second group is the undocumented or illegally workers that we have no number. And the third group is children and elderly people that we also have no number of them. Migrant workers are part of our Thai economy. We include them as a worker, but we exclude them as the other in terms of social culture. They are workers in construction sector, agricultural sector, tourism sector, and domestic worker. We accept them as a worker, but we not accept them as a member of our society. This is, I think, the basic problem of migrant workers in Thailand, and it will relate to the COVID-19. So how we can explain the situation of migrant workers during the COVID-19? I think I have already mentioned that two perspectives. First is about they are the victim of the COVID-19, but I think I would like to focusing on the active of the migrant worker as well. Right? During the COVID-19 outbreak, our borders are closed, that I already mentioned that as well. As our businesses are forced to stopping, that is happened, I think, in the same consequences in Thailand. So for the migrant worker in Chiang Rai, this is the three kinds of risk. First, risk in job. They are forced to live without pay because they are daily worker. If they go to work, they get paid. If they do not, they don't go to work, they cannot pay. And in some restaurant, in some business, still open during the COVID outbreak. They're forced to a reduction of working hours. The impact of this risk, they have no money. They cannot send back money. They have a lack of food. This is the impact of this risk in jobs. And also, the Thai government provide the 62% of wage to both Thai workers and migrant employer for 3 months who are registered under the Social Security Office. But the problem is most of information is in Thai language. Even the application form is on in the application form, the online application is also in Thai language. So it's impossible for migrant workers to access to the this scheme of the government. And also we found that many the employer did not recognize that this scheme also provide to migrant workers. They still understand that this scheme is only give to the Thai worker. This is a big problem. Okay, let me move on to the risk in health. I think there are two parts that we have to consider. First is from the migrant worker themselves, and the second one from the government side. This is the living place of the migrant workers in Chiang Rai. This is a construction site that are in the suburb of the city. And this is the dormitories that in the city, right? And these are a number of family of migrant workers. The left is one big dormitory, and the second one is also a big one. As you can see, that there are many people who live together. They sharing daily life in a small room like this. Like have a chat together, or for kids they playing together. Right. This is also their daily life in the dormitory room. And the problem is the lack of personal protection equipment. They are crowded it's impossible for them to follow the practice of social distancing that the government very strong recommendation that all people should practice in social distancing. But to see the accommodation of the migrant worker, I think is impossible, right? To practice social distancing. And another point to look at the government policy, I think in Chiang Rai, there is no any measure to help migrant workers to protect themselves from COVID-19. There is no jail, there's no mask, there is no food to provide to the migrant workers. The reason is they are not Thai. They are alien. They are not our people. They are the others, right? Most budget measure or project are for Thai only. One municipal officer told me that if they gave migrant worker any mask or hand gel or food to migrant worker, Thai people will question them and ask to stop the providing aid to the migrant worker. This is a big problem. And the last risk about that of the for migrant worker is the uncertainty for crossing the border. These pictures show regarding military on the river bank in Mesai River. I think it's not different from Sungai Kolok or Mesot. It's the same method right now, right? Before the closure of borders, there were many migrant workers in Chiang Rai who went back home. They went to visit their family or register new round of MOU, and they hope to come back again. But after it's closing, and even even at the current situation, Chiang Rai business are more reopened again since June, but they cannot cross the border as usual. Therefore, there were many migrant workers in Chiang Rai who illegally back to Chiang Rai since mid of June. But this military officer, they take action in the, I think, late of July. I think that means all the migrant workers already live in the city already. Right? But for those who could not come, they still face the uncertainty of crossing the border to come back to Chiang Rai. In a hardship time, the question is how could they survive? As Thai exclude them as alien, but they try to integrate themselves as a part of Thai society. In the mid of April, we organized one organization named Aid Center for Migrant Workers in Chiang Rai. You can see from their t-shirt, you can see the Myanmar national flag on the right, and you can see another Thai flag on the left. They said that we should put two flags together. Right? I think these are the meaning of these two flags is to show that they are try to be part of both countries. Right? And this organization, we work together with academics, NGOs, and migrant communities themselves. What do we do? Right? We collecting data, we providing food and personal protection equipment. I think I mentioned about the migrant communities. It's very important because when we plan to provide food or aid to the migrant worker, we need to know who need it, right? So that they they know that there are the network of people who come from their origin country. Most of Myanmar workers come from Mithila, or Mandalay, or the Tongji, or Chiang state. So they will know that who is who, right? In Thai, who is who. And we not only give the provide aid to the migrant worker as individual, right? There are at least 3 or 4 generations of people in the migrant communities. You can see we have to provide a newborn kid, right? We have to provide scholarship to the student from the kindergarten to university. And also, I think it's a big issue. We also have retired people or elderly people who cannot back to the Myanmar, even without the COVID situation, because their children are here, right? Or they get used to work here already. And also we have a daily health check. Because of that is no any help from the government. So we need to to support them to have check their temperature and ask the patient about the symptoms that relate to COVID-19, right? Every day since until now, right? And also we support them to produce the media in the Myanmar, right? To give knowledge about the COVID-19, new normal practice, or about the workers' right and how to access to the SSO scheme, like that. And also, and after that, I think after we organize this organization, right? These pictures show the activity of the provincial hospital officer. They are collecting to work with migrant workers to test COVID-19. Right now, there were 90 adults and 50 children of migrant workers are tested. And the result is negative, right? I think we found that among our success activities, we found that there were different concerns between the Thai government and migrant workers themselves. On the left hand, I had a meeting with military office in Chiang, right, to raise the concern about the COVID-19 spreading. And they asked me my plan, my activities, and the reason behind this activity. But for the migrant worker, I think they are very concerned about the language, about the education, about the children, about the learning Thai and Myanmar language. That is a different. That means Thai government are concerned on the national security, but migration are concerned in different way. To conclude my presentation, I think from border studies perspective, the function of border during the COVID-19 outbreak is back to the traditional one, that is to be a barrier. And Borderland in Chiang Rai as a destination or transit for migrant workers for seeking the job. COVID-19 show the complicated problem of migration, border, disease pandemic, and power relationship. Migrant workers are affected by the COVID-19 outbreak in terms of economic, access to health, and social culture discriminations. But they are not passive, as most people understand. They are very active in participating in voluntary works during the COVID-19 outbreak and expanding the scope of work from the charity to social movement. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. So now we nearly ran out of time. We have around 20 minutes. This is the 18 part 10. So we will, I will not do the concluding, but I will give the time for questions or from the people who joined the Zoom meeting for the 22. Right now we have around 22 people joining in this room. If anyone has any question or problem from the floor, please raise your hand. Okay, any? Because right now we have the situation. Actually, I think our panel should be not only inclusive, but we also see exclusive. And we see the issue in the city and also at the border, the situation in the conflict, so on, the situation at the border between North and South, far North and far South. We also see the situation of the fishery sector. Okay. The first question is how do you collect the data, and also this is come from the chat. Migrant data collection is controversial. How are you building trust with the migrant and managing data privacy? So I will ask our four speakers to keep in mind those who work with the migrant worker, Kun Tok, Kun U, and to keep it in mind that how do you get the information and how can you build trust. Any other questions?
Ajahn, I can't work out how to raise my hand.
Yes.
I just raised my hand this way.
Yes.
I had a question for Kun Akhenath about whether he anticipates that the delivery service, which I think is amazing work, to be clear, I think it's fantastic what's been done with this project. Do you think it can sustain beyond the current pandemic? Like, in other words, is the platform economy the new normal economy in Thailand? Because it's not just your project, but like many others that have kind of emerged or become dominant within some more commercial and some that are far more orientated around social justice, like your project. But do you see this platform economy as being the new normal economy in urban spaces in Thailand? And will your project in particular sustain, and how could it scale to other places?
Okay, Kun Akhenath, you can hold on. We have limited time, so I would like to collect only one time for the question. So will the platform economy will be the future of our work even after the COVID-19? Any other questions? No? Maybe, okay. Maybe start by answering the first question from the Piroshung, who asking about the data, migrant data collection. Alisa, Kun Alisa also asked by the text to Kun Sibsakun that how do you dealing with the DNA collection in Chiang Rai? And you will see in the Kun Alisa cases as a conflict zone, right? It will be more serious. Okay. Okay, if not, maybe I'm the last person. I will ask the question to Kun Nitit as well. Because you're working with the fishery sector, so you have both migrant workers who are in the big fishing boat and also still work, but still face the situation. But you are also dealing with the small fisher folk, which is a Thai, and I mean, face the situation that they cannot sell the product. But based on your conceptual framework with the issue of the multiple depredation, do you feel that the COVID-19 reproducing more inequality? Or in other words, will it go to more solidarity, the one that Kun Akhenath say or Kun Sibskun say, right? Because some people are saying that COVID-19 create inequality even more. But people are saying that during this time, actually, you create solidarity. And this question might also going to our speaker, that the role of the non-state actor or civil society will be an answer as well. Maybe since Kun Sibskun is the last speaker, maybe we can start from the back to the first. Kun Sibskun, Kun Nitit, Kun Alisa, and then Kun Akhenath. You have only 3 minutes.
Okay. Me first, right?
Yes.
Yeah, to answer Ajahn Alisa, there is no any DNA collect. Yeah, they just concerned about the illegal crossing the border and just concerned about the COVID spreading in the. Yeah, they shocked. action from them. And for another question, I agree with Chung that is very sensitive for the collect the data, right, among the migrant workers or migrant community. Even in our activities, that we think that we represent migrant workers, right? But they also ask, who are you? Why did you need to collect my data? I think this is a big problem for them. So we need to build a trust with them. And I think I faced right now we face a new problem. Right, there are many NGOs who want to work in the migrant community. So the first thing that they do is collect data, right, to show to the fund agency like that. Oh, we have a real target to give donation, to give help like that. So after that, we also face this problem. I think, but I agree with you that we need to build a trust among the migrant workers. Thank you.
Okay, Yen Kunitit, yes.
Yeah, for Ajahn Narimon's question, does COVID-19 reproduce more inequality or produce solidarity? To me, I think in the case of fisher folks, COVID-19 exposes the hidden issue from inequality, like accessing to the market. The fisher folks have relied on the middleman in the communities to get into the market, which I think they should have more channels for them to sell their products. And for the question about how to access to migrants, usually for our research center, we have access migrant workers through our CSO network.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we see the role of civil society. Then คุณอลิสาค่ะ
To answer Ajahn question that COVID-19 reproduced the solidarity or inequality. For me, I think in the southern part of Thailand, we have more inequality. And because of COVID-19 is quite very new situation. And like many people said, it's exposed the problem that we already have and having more. And because we living in conflict for 15 years, here we have a lot of poverty. It's made by state. And even though the BRN already announced that willing to have ceasefire, but the government still did not use this opportunity to building peace and reducing gap between in the situation. But luckily, like in the southern part of Thailand, we have health volunteer, very, very active and good health volunteer. So that's why this is why the COVID-19 did not spread much in the southern part of Thailand, because for more than 30 or 40 years that they're working hard in this area. And because of the role of the civil society, they're working together. And because we didn't trust much with the government and even with the Sawabato, who under the military umbrella, obviously. So that's why we quite hopeless with the help from them. So that's why the people have to have themselves. But the big issue is for the people who living in the depend on the natural resources, for example, like for fishery village. Now, I think this is a huge situation that how did they live in this area, because they lost job, they cannot go to Malaysia as the way they did before. And once when they coming back and natural resources already declaration, they cannot even catch fish in the seas anymore. So this is bring a huge gaps in between people. So that's quite very challenging for this situation because COVID-19 is quite new. for everyone here too. So I think we have to find a good research, like action research to empowering them and to like get to this situation together.
Okay, Kun Akanat, last one.
ครับขอบคุณครับ thanks for the question, and before I respond to Carl's question, I would like to thank Carl in particular, because back then 2 years ago I was a program coordinator for MAIDS, and
Okay.
Carl has a class called Innovation for Inclusive Development. I have no chance to join the class, but I read through all the materials that he provided to the class, and I quite impressed, and I got a lot of inspiration from that materials. And it come to the idea that we could use the technology to reduce inequality. We can use the technology to distribute, to get more fair for the wealth distribution. But what I see today was that we use technology as a tool to for the exploitation. If you look at the work condition of the workers on the platform and people in the new type of work, it's I couldn't say more. It's something that we get into the wrong direction, and we have to take it back. So sustainability is a key challenge for my project as well, because we think hard and we're still trying to make it sustain. How to make the community feel that the platform that we built was belong to them, and how to make them try to make it as their property. This is the most challenging things, and yes, I would say that now platform economy, digital economy, whatever you call it, is like a trend. It's like a things that we couldn't we have to go toward that way. But what we can do as a academic or a researcher was that we will have to make the public aware of how to use it wisely. Otherwise, then it couldn't make its. When Ajahn Narumon asking about whether the COVID-19 make equality or make solidarity, I would say that from my point of view, it's make us see the situation is like a catalyst that we see how it's going to be, and from there on, then we can think that how can we create solidarity out of the situation, and that's what we're trying to do. After I create this project, then I got lots of call, and now people asking me to help create another type of platform for another job, for example, domestic workers, nanny, mother, and so on, and I think we can do it. So we will make it, and I will do it, and I would like everyone, if you think that you can help, you are all welcome.
We have 2 more 10 minutes before we go. Any other round of the questions? Any other people who ask any question at all? Or if not, maybe we can even go to, I will ask the speaker to, if it's no question, I will ask the speaker to, you can put your last point, the one that you would like to give to the world or to those who enter into this room. And definitely we will have a future project. I hope that at least the COVID-19 will be with us for a while, or even after COVID-19, we might do the research together as a post-COVID. And I think CSCS, Ajahn Kham nod his head, so we might do a co-project together. Okay, so maybe I ask each speaker, maybe if you feel that you anything that you want to add, as your last point or word of wisdom or any concluding remark. Start by Akhanat. You are still. Maybe if not, I jump with the question so that everyone can say. Since the COVID-19 will be with us for a long time, and you also work with the academic and also civil society, and also you see the weaken of the state, and now you see the private sector is also on the economic downturn. So in your idea, the future research, or what will be the new research, or what will be the new activity, is not necessary to be academic research. What will be the new action or researching as a post-COVID? I mean, in order to make our title, right, inclusive society, right? Our term is a people, planet, and inclusive society. So what is your thinking for the future?
I can start first.
Yes. Yes.
I have planned like I think for a new situation, and the situation is quite complex. So for me, I already planned my law have to engage more with the civil society. Next year, I will like apply to be a president of the สภาภาคประชาสังคมชายแดนใต้
Okay. Yes,
will
very
be
good.
will be the first. I will be the first woman. Like
Good.
I'm quite boring with the male and the like ฟันปลอมทั้งหลาย that run the issue in the southern part. As I will engage more. And the second point is now I try to ask the funding from the disease department control, like to engage more, to talk to them more, like to have a new research that to actually to tell them that to control the COVID-19 pandemic, they need more social side point of view. And because I used to have a chance to have a meeting with them, and I see like many of them, they are very good, but they all came from the medical and mathematics, and thinking about the graph and the declaration and some formula, some algorithm or something, but they lack of talking or speaking with the what behind and the life behind the number. So and actually they need more from the researcher from social side to engage with them, but they didn't know. I think we still have gap that we need like a platform to talk more and draw more from the people from other disciplines to talk with this.
Okay, thank you. It reminds me of Chulalongkorn. We also need more social side research in dealing with this issue. Okay. Others? Yes, Akhanat. Yep.
ครับอาจารย์ talking about research, I think all of us have done numbers of research. But what I would like to see was the so-called post-research. How can we, implement our research and our policy suggestion? And I think if we believe enough on our own studies, on our own research, we will have to do more. We will have to try to implement it, even if those authorities, they don't really care about it. But if you believe enough on your own studies, you will have to do it some way. You have to find it on your own way, even you don't have enough, but you have to try. This is how I would like to see and how I try to challenge myself. And when I look at what Dr. Zagun did and what those friends at Chiang Mai University that try to work with those migrant workers, I quite impressed. And I think this is the role of the academic and researcher that I would like to see.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Then we have Nitit. Yes.
Yes. For me, in the pandemic situations, I have rethought about the roles of myself. When I got into the field work, I had questions popped in my head that what I could do in this situation to help these people, not just in the role of researcher, because researcher is just gathering data from them, but I was questioning myself that I can only do that thing for them,
Mhm.
I and I and this question popped in my head that bothering me since I have been working in the project about COVID-19.
So you would like to do more than researcher, or you are going to be like
Yeah,
Dr. Alisa, being a president,
yeah,
or be a founder foundation,
maybe.
maybe the great student. We can have a project with other PhD student. K. Subskun, yes.
Yes, I'm from the Borderland, right? I would like to say that if the border is there, we need to cross the border. I think COVID-19 is the border, right? To exclude everyone with the fear, right? With the uncertainty, with the risk. How can you risk yourself to work with a migrant worker that will really crowd with hygiene, like blah, 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 like this? I think for the activist scholar, I think I would like to, how can I say, work really closely with migrant workers more, right? And also, I think, field research, I think we would like to conduct a research or work with both employers in Chiang Rai and the government agency in provincial level. That because they are like they will, how can I say, they are also another border that we need to cross to work with them. Otherwise, we cannot like talking about the integration of economic and sociology and social and culture, right? I think I think for the COVID-19, I think is not disease is not economic, I think, but is the how we cross that border. That is my answer.
Okay. We have the question from the chat talking about the pandemic effect is not on the, health, the infect people, but on the economy part and those driver of the economy and the fear. And I think anyone would like to answer? If not, I will be the one who answer. Yes, Kun Arya, the economy part is also quite clear. Thailand definitely face the deficit. I mean, we will have a contract is maybe, I don't know, maybe minus with 2 digits in the, next fiscal year, and it will take quite a long time for the Thailand economy will be bounce back, and definitely at least 2 years, the tourism sector will come back, and also other economic sector. But yes, that's correct, the issue of fear. And one thing, I think I'm glad, the reason that I design this panel because I'm worried that because of the economic downturn and fear, then people become more nationalistic, seeing the migrant worker as their what you call job opportunity offender against the Thai, which is not true. Nobody, I talked to the Department of Employment. They seem to think that since Thai people will be unemployed, so let not allow migrant worker to come back and bring the Thai to fill in, which is not easy to put in mathematics. Like Dr. Alisa said, it's not mathematical issue like that. It's more complicated than that. So that's why we are thinking on this issue. And so for us, that will be our future research. And if Kun Arya is interested, we can think about the new research together for this Zoom panel. I mean, we are still open up. We are still doing a research. And we will continue to do that. And each four of us have our own research. And we hope to, continue and hope to do that. And since this is a co-host program between the Institute of the Asian Study and Center of Excellence on Resource Politics, I will speak maybe 1 minute on as part of the Institute of the Asian Study. I would like to thank all four speakers and also for all participants who joined the program, and definitely the Institute of Asian Studies. So since our title is Asian Studies, so basically we will work cross-border, cross-nationality, and try to work is cross-sector. And right now, the COVID-19 also make us as a new frontier that we try to do, and that's why we decided to work with the inclusive society. Hope it to be more inclusive And now I give the last 1 minute to Ajahn Kao, who is our co-host from the Center of Excellence. You want to
You're very generous, Ajahn. Actually, I wanted to add an extra question or just a comment that what I found most inspiring about this panel has been how it represents academic engagement and contribution to society. And I think that I appreciate Akhenaten mentioning about the Innovation for Inclusive Development course, but I think also another project that I've also been inspired by is Ajahn Naramon's project on knots, which has been developing like how to teach and how to develop curriculum on transdisciplinary research. And although this panel hasn't been framed as transdisciplinary research, I think it's a really good example of transdisciplinary research and how engaged academics can bring like their academic approach or way of looking at the world, but share their knowledge and produce new knowledge by working with others, whether it's with migrants, whether it's with motorcycle riders or consumers. So to me, I found this panel really engaging, and thank you so much, Ajahn Naramon, for convening it, and to all the presenters for sharing such amazing work. Thank you, Ajahn.
Yeah, okay. With this time, I would like to close the panel. I would like to thank all paper presenters, speaker, participants, and those who join our panel on the Zoom. And hope we will see each other again. But this next time should be face to face. So thank you very much. Thank you, ka. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.